Hello, welcome to this week's sermon. This sermon is for the 18th of April 2025, that is Good Friday. A Good Friday sermon with the readings Isaiah 52, verses 13 to chapter 53, verse 12, and Hebrews chapter 4, verses 14 to 16, and chapter 5, verses 7 to 9. And then John's Gospel, the story of the crucifixion. John's Gospel, chapter 19, verses 1 to 42. Today I want to speak of three life lessons which face us all. The first is the lesson, it's not fair. The second is the lesson, there's no gain without pain. And the third is the lesson of our own mortality. It's not fair. Most children work life out pretty quickly. It's a complaint on our lips as soon as we notice someone at the table gets a bigger slice than we do. And it is seldom very far from our lips for the rest of our lives. Parents will just tell children that life is simply like that. Some of their friends will have smartphones and go on expensive holidays, and some will not. The sooner we accept that life is unfair and learn to live with the discomfort, the better. Put in such bleak terms, it does seem a counsel of despair. But frankly, we all do have to come to terms with living in a manifestly unfair world. Our innate desire for a fair world persists in most of us, and so we tend to focus on some aspect that particularly offends us and do what we can to put that right and learn to live with the rest. There are innumerable causes we could embrace to fight for a fairer world. Some take their fight into political life. Others support a charity. Others help the homeless or the chronically sick, or join a church. If you're looking for a cause to bring a tiny spark of justice to our world, there is no shortage of good causes. Some people, on the other hand, simply give up after a while and adopt a if you can't beat them, join them attitude. They then learn the dark arts of how to take advantage of living in such an unfair world. Greed, selfishness, and indifference to the needs of others become the rules by which they live. And let's be honest, it's a way we are all tempted to join from time to time in different ways. Trying to hold out for a fair world and personal integrity when the world appears to be taking you for a fool is a struggle many of us can only maintain through occasional lapses into a bit of self-centeredness of our own. There is another response to the unfairness of this world which is taken by few, but which can have a profound and lasting effect. And that is to become oneself the focus and victim of the unfairness of the world. Young students in Tiananmen Square. Young women removing their hijabs in Tehran. Christians caught distributing Bibles where Christianity is not permitted. Such self-sacrifice in the face of the unrelenting injustice of the world can sometimes be the means by which such injustice is finally abolished. It is this latter response to injustice that I see running through the story of Good Friday. Jesus was a victim of injustice. He was condemned on trumped-up charges, sentenced to death by a judge who knew he was actually innocent, and insulted by those who wrongfully accused him of blasphemy. Yet his willingness to face the cross and take on the role of a victim of injustice means that Jesus questions, challenges, and potentially overturns all injustices in this unfair world. It's not long after we've learnt to say it's not fair that we have to learn the equally challenging lesson of there's no gain without pain. This life lesson can be phrased in a variety of ways, such as you get out of life what you put in, or nothing worthwhile comes easily, or simply there's no such thing as a free lunch. This is another life lesson that can take years to absorb. And even when you think we have learnt this lesson, we can still foolishly leap at the first opportunity to avoid the pain and go straight for the gain. How else would we explain the sheer prevalence of those who cheat in exams and school tests? Those who cheat their employer but still take the wage? Those who want the fun of physical love without the emotional commitment? Those who want to steal things for which others have toiled? There is no shortage in this world of people who will try to buck this life rule and take advantage where advantage may be found, especially if it removes the pain and effort of getting what they want. Many people, on the other hand, discipline themselves to accept this life rule and even come to thrive by it. Those school students who stay home to revise and prepare for exams when their mates are out on the town. Athletes that push themselves ever harder to endure and to reach new heights of achievement. People willing to take on long years of study to gain professional status. Those who are willing to burn the midnight oil in their quest to paint the perfect picture or write the novel that is buzzing in their head. Those who try to buck this life rule end up among life's losers, or even in prison. But those who embrace it, who are prepared to put in the effort as the price of success, become the very fabric of civilization. Yet there is another level of people who find the motivation to take pain for the sake of gain to an entirely different level. Those are the people who voluntarily take on pain for the sake of other people's gain. You know the type I mean. Those prepared to fight for freedom despite knowing they face the re-education gulag or even the noose. We think of suffragettes imprisoned for demanding votes for women, and of those names in our war memorials as we approach Anzac Day next week, who gave their lives for the defence of values and people they held dear. It is this level of willingness to take pain for the sake of others that I see running through the Good Friday story. From the image of the innocent man whose beard is torn out and whose back is whipped raw in Isaiah's vision, to the agonizing details of Jesus' crucifixion. It is the cross of Jesus that prompts us all to question what cause, which values, for whom would we endure such pain? And have we hitherto sacrificed ourselves in the causes that really matter? And thirdly, one other major life lesson brought to mind by the Good Friday readings is one which we try to shield from children and often act in denial as adults ourselves much of our lives. Unless tragedy strikes close to home, children can be spared the harrowing grief that comes from the death of a loved one. But it won't be long before death of a pet, death of a grandparent, or simply through listening in to adult conversation, that children will ask about death. Clearly, it is potentially distressing for a young child to imagine the loss of a parent. It is all but impossible to envisage their own demise, unless struck down with long hospital stays. So we naturally employ some euphemism or other which we consider appropriate for the child's age. We might say that someone has gone to heaven, or gone to be with Jesus, or has become one of God's angels, or even has become one of the stars in the sky. Quite understandably, we're not too bothered about scientific or theological accuracy when talking to young children about death. Inevitably, we gather a fuller picture about our mortality with the passage of time, but it remains one of the toughest life lessons to accept. Overemphasis on death leads to melancholy and depression, whilst denial can lead to wasted lives and missed opportunities. When my grandfather died, when I was about 5 years old, I barely noticed. I just accepted that he wasn't there anymore. I was 8 years old when my grandmother died. Even aged 8, I was more concerned about the gathered mourners knowing that it was my birthday on the day of Grandma's funeral than I was with any sense of loss or grief. I only grieved for her many years later as an adult when visiting all the family graves in the local cemetery. I remember being struck forcefully by my own mortality when I had been away at university for several years and happened to stumble upon a souvenir we had bought on holiday many years previously. It was a snowstorm paperweight that we had bought in Wales. You know, the sort filled with water which you shake to make it snow inside the plastic dome. In that particular bit of tourist tat, 2 women in Welsh national dress sat on a bench, staring out from their plastic bubble into our world. It struck me that I had been away for several years, had done so much, learnt many new things, and met many new people, and become several years older, whilst they had seemingly not moved an inch. I picked it up and shook it, and the snowstorm began to tumble around the 2 little figures. This is what I wrote. Mute swans fall from the sky, and ballerinas in glistening white dresses pirouette down to the heavenly strains only they hear. Beneath the blanket of white, the 2 ageless ones sit, yet not shivering, stoically surveying our world's turmoil and tears, and they, sublime, eternal in their white sepulchral silence. Drowning in airwaves leaden with war, steely, lily-like sirens clamour and moan like a child in the night. Escape from my evanescent distress into their silent, wintry timelessness. O wise ones of aeonian sight, do I proffer a Nazarene cheek, or for righteousness fight? Can I bring peace through destruction, and reach heaven through hell? Reap life with the apocalypse scythe? They ponder and muse, but can give no advice. Betrayed, I seek life's tumultuous ways, its striving and heartaches and fortuitous joys, life's vitality, born of death's duress. But held by immortality's chains, I settle with them beneath indecision's shroud. Well, that was my attempt to capture what I saw in the Good Friday story regarding a healthy attitude to life and death. To live in denial of our mortality is to live recklessly, like young men who hoon around in cars, because they are indestructible at that age. And to live overwhelmed by one's mortality is to live cynically, unsatisfied by anything this world may offer, or simply to sink into depression and loneliness. But to embrace one's mortality is to live courageously and fully. It gives life contour. Time is limited, and so we cannot do everything. We must make choices, work out what is truly worth doing in this life, and live as fully and enthusiastically as we can without taking the miracle of our being for granted. Mortality gives us the motivation to become the people we want to be and to do the things we want to do. It enables us to choose the things that are truly worth living for, and ultimately, also, the things that are truly worth dying for. Amen.